as I said without the recording, this is our first live event at Brooks Memorial Library, and we're planning to do these every other month at Brooks and at the Rockingham Free Library in Bellows Falls. And hopefully we will have a meeting in August at some point. We haven't decided on a date, but we'll let you know. So let me share with you just an agenda for today. So this is going to try to follow this 30 minutes. I'll do the overview of the National Archives and Records Administration, better known as NARA, or also known as NARA. And then Wayne will follow up with a searching, chronicling American newspapers for ancestors. And then we'll have just a general genealogy discussion with your questions. And if you have any topics for the next meeting, you can let us know at that point. And as I said, this is going to be uploaded to YouTube, so you can review it later and get the links off of the PowerPoint PDFs that we will put there. Okay. So are there any questions before we start, or any announcements you would like to make? You can unmute yourselves for that if you'd like. If not, we'll.
There's a hand up.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Jean. You may speak.
Oh, no. Oh, maybe she doesn't know her name.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I can put that hand down. There, you got it. No, it's still up. It's not showing on mine. You're muted, Jean. Can you unmute yourself?
Got it. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We are new to Grafton. We moved here in September. So we moved from out of state, from Seattle area, actually.
Oh, welcome.
We moved here to be nearer to family. We have a son and daughter-in-law in South Newfane. But I'm interested in newspapers, etc., because I have a Revolutionary War hero, Moses Rich, and I have found information on him, and I am actually a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, but I haven't researched newspapers to see if there's anything at all about him. And it would be lovely to find something, you know.
Well, I'm sure, Wayne can lead the way on that when he does his thing. So,
okay.
Good.
We'll get
Okay.
to that in the second half.
Yeah, we'll do that in the second half, but then we'll
All
have,
right.
a general, discussion. Okay, so let's get started in mine and get that out of the way. I'm going to share my screen again here.
You don't have anybody waiting.
No, I don't think so, but that's a good point. Let me check. Yeah. Nothing's flashing at this point. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay. So we're going to talk today about the National Archives and Records Administration. So first, I'm going to offer a disclaimer. I'm not an expert on the National Archives. In fact, I've never visited the one in Washington, and I've been to one regional archive in Philadelphia, and that was some time ago. So today's presentation is basically a flyover of this massive and quite diverse archive that we all own, NARA. So today we'll just there'll be a shorter introduction to how the website is organized and the many ways to access it. We'll cover what is the National Archives, its founding, and some of the statistics of the offerings. As you know, much of it is not digitized. So many of your questions that go to the archive that you can't find online, you'll have to pull the record and scan it, or you'll have to go look at it yourself. So there are regional archives, as I've said, and different parts of the US. And we'll look at pages where your journey will begin to look at these records. And we'll look at the 5 access points that I've identified for looking at the records, as well as how to order a record. And then I thought I'd just throw in a short video, which is on the National Archives website, about searching there on site. It goes through the registration process in case you're in Washington at some point. So we can get started here. Okay, so what we have is where the let's see, jumped a little bit too far. This is the mission, vision, and values. It just tells you in a nutshell what they're set up to do. The archives were established under Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1937, so it's actually a rather new organization of the federal government, and they collected the records from the various agencies and so forth. So their mission is to provide public access of federal government records in our custody and control. That's their basic mission, and they do have a vision statement that drives their mission. The lower left-hand corner is a picture of the archives, the building in Washington, and the middle is part of the reading room, and the little map on the right, if you can see it, shows where they're located. Okay, so the founding, I was wrong on the date, 1934, but the holdings date back to 1775, and they collect only 2 to 5% of what's generated each year by the public agencies. So it is a smaller part of what they're actually what the agencies are producing. They have 13.28 billion textual records, so almost 14 billion textual records. 10 million maps, charts, architectural and engineering drawings. Almost 45 million still photos, digital images, film strips, and graphics. 40 million aerial photos. About 500,000 motion picture reels, and almost 1 million video and sound recordings. And over 1,300 terabytes of electronic information. So do you know what a terabyte is? One terabyte is equal to 1,000 gigabytes, which is equal to 1,000 megabytes. So, you might have like a 30 gigabyte hard drive on your computer. So 1,000 gigabytes is what a terabyte is equal to. So we're looking at 1,000 terabytes. So it's a little bit hard to imagine. Yeah.
Question, on the 44 million line, film strips and graphics, what does graphics mean?
It's a good point. Probably like charts,
Images?
Well, digital images are a bit different. So I think they're probably,
printed images? Or?
yeah, it'll be like charts. I'm thinking, as I said, I'm not an expert, so I don't know exactly, but I'm taking it from their,
All right.
and we might be able to tell better, later in what they offer in terms of limiting the search. So, but the important thing to remember here, especially for genealogists, is that these are federal records. They are records generated by or for the federal government, such as military, pension, federal land, but there are no local records. The local records are made by the towns and the counties and the states. So you're not going to find those. So things like birth records, marriage records, death records, you're going to have to go to local archives for that. And most of the records that have not been digitized will not be found on this website, but it will tell you perhaps where you can go to get them and actually order the records. So I mentioned before the national record operations, which are, we have branches, we have the regional archives. There are actually two in the state of Massachusetts, one in Boston and one in Pittsfield, Mass, which is a federal record center. And those serve the New England states, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont. And these were established in 1969 to give people access and to be consulting agencies for the federal agencies in their area, so that if they needed to ship their records there or get advice on how to handle the records. So these are, there's 650,000 cubic feet of material. So nearly 1/4 of the total holdings are in these regional archives. And they're mainly records that are regionally oriented: appeal courts, Army Corps of Engineer reports, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Bureau of Customs, and they hold a selected list of the microfilm that's available at NARA DC. So many records are still on microfilm. They have not reached the digitized state of being able to look at them on the web. And what we also have is 16 presidential libraries. That's part of the National Archives and Records Administration. So all the presidents have, they either have a physical library like the John F. Kennedy Library in outside of Boston, or it's just an actual archive of holdings, which is what the more recent presidents have now. So, okay, so this is the landing page, archives.gov. That's all you have to remember. Put that in your browser, you come right here, and then you're immediately hit with a lot of links and everything. So it's you can take a view of it. This is an image that I grabbed, but below it there are on the footer of the web page there are more links that take you to other places. So there's multiple ways of accessing the information, and
the .gov is really important though.
yes,
There are other,
that's right.
archives.org, archives.com.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. So archives.gov is what you really need to get to this. So the main one you want to be especially cognizant of is research our records, and you can bookmark that one as well, because it will bring you to this page. And on this page, you'll see the main categories: research in the National Archives, and the main one here is search the catalog. But we also have some other ones that will be good, and we'll look at today. Record Group Explorer, which is a way of looking at the records in their hierarchies. The access to archival databases, the AAD, which is a separate database that contains only about 1%, 1 to 2% of the total holdings. But it's important in its own right because they've actually been digitized. You have links to records digitized by our partners, which is very important because they work with Ancestry, Fold, 3, and Family Search to digitize the records. So sometimes you can just go to those, you don't have to go to the National Archives to find those records. So they're important, and we'll show you a list of what is at those sites. And then the Microfilm Catalog is important because it's all the holdings that are still on microfilm. And finally, the Catalog Guide for Genealogists. So that's what we're here for. Okay, so the Resource for Genealogists brings you to another page. And you can always check where you're at by this little waypoint. So home, there's archives.gov, and then research our records, and now we're on resources for genealogists. So if you ever want to go back, you can click on those to get back to where you were. Okay. And so we're going to look at a couple of things here. The popular topics. So these are what genealogists come most for to the National Archives: census records, military service records, immigration records, naturalization records. And the more topics part is what we're going to look for. And so this gives you a list of other research topics that the links will bring you to where you want to be. And one that we're going to look at really quickly is the military records. So this page, again, is a link from the genealogy research page. And this shows you a little bit like if you were just looking for military records research, you could come here and it gives you three different ways of looking at it. You can research by branch. So each one of those branches, you can drill down and get to records. Research by topic. So they have military personnel records, historical military records, Civil War, and OSS and intelligence records, and then records by the war or conflict. So looking up Revolutionary, Civil War, etc. And one thing that is I want to point out here is that in this regional archive, which is in St. Louis, has the 20th century military records. So National Archives in Washington has everything up to 1917, but in this place here has the records for World War I, World War II, and the post-World War II conflicts. Now, I have some sad news. In 1973, there was a disastrous fire at this facility, which destroyed 80% of those records. So if you're looking for your father's or grandfather's World War II record, personal record, you may not find it here, unfortunately. And they didn't have backup copies, and of course, no digitization. So unfortunately, those are lost. But they're 20%, so you can still try. And for the other records, they're safe and secure at NARA in Washington. So the Revolutionary, Civil War, and those types of records. Okay, so here's where we get down in the nitty-gritty, navigating the NARA portal. I've identified 5 ways of accessing it, besides what we just did from the front page. There's the Record Group Explorer, which I mentioned, which is a hierarchical way of doing it. The National Archives Catalog, the AAD, and the digitization at the National Archives, which tells you what their partners have digitized already, and record reproduction and ordering. Now, the best way, as we know, to approach any kind of genealogical inquiry is to have a research question well defined. So you're kind of not swimming and going down rabbit holes. I know rabbit holes are interesting, but if we want to get our work done, we need to have a research question to lead us. And so this is what we're going to be looking at. Okay, so the arrangement of the records are hierarchical. The record group is the highest level of arrangement. It consists of records of the major government agency. So like, Department of State, that's a record group. Department of Defense will be a record group. So, and then everything follows from that. You have the series, then they're arranged by series, which is description of the record. And then these are grouped into units of files, depending on what kind of file it is, if it's a PDF, if it's a website, whatever. And then you get down to the items, and these are the actual documents that you'll be looking at. And this is just a graphical way of looking at it. So you see how it's done. Okay, so let's see here. So we're going to look at the Record Group Explorer first. And when you pull up the Record Group Explorer link, the tiles on the right, these tiles here will fill the page. So you could actually look at all of these titles and tiles, and they will relate to the record group. So if you click on that, you'll go to the record group, and you will see You can also look at them in a list by the title of the record group. And the list is interesting. The tiles give you the percentage that is digitized in that particular record group or agency. This will tell you what is actually the numbers for what it's worth. So I've made links on the PPT, the PowerPoint. So when you see them in the on the Google sheet, you'll be able to click on them and go to them. But at any rate, they're also on that Research Our Records page that I mentioned. Okay, so that's the Record Group Explorer. All right, searching the National Archives. So that's the second way of doing it. So as you can see, if you go to the National Archives catalog, you can do a search just as you do in any kind of database catalog. And I just threw in Brattleboro, Vermont, because we're all familiar here with Brattleboro, Vermont, and I wanted to see what was available. And it brought up 87 pages of documents. You can see the documents that it brought up on the left there. And there are also ways to refine that search. And if you look on the right, you'll see the various, you can refine by date. And over on the left here, you can refine by the level of description and by the data source. But dates seem to be probably the most useful for us, because then you can get back into an era where you want to be. So let's see here if there's anything else I need to mention there. Okay, so let's look at one of these records. Let's look at this digitized record of men mustered at Brattleboro. It's from record group 110. So you could have found it by going to the RG, the record group number. When you click on that, you get the actual document that you can read and download. So this is an example of a document that you can actually find at the National Archives. Now, it's possible, and I'll show you something a little bit later here shortly, that this document might be on one of the partner sites as well. But for now, you have it here that you can download. It's original document. And as you can see, it comes from the Vermont Adjunct Inspector General's office. Okay, Civil War pension files are there as well. And these are for the mothers and the widows of various men who were connected to Brattleboro. And we'll look at just very quickly this one, the approved pension application file for Abigail Magoon was the mother of Henry O. Magoon, Company G, the 4th Vermont Infantry. And it's a little hard to read, but I just want to give you just an idea. This is a 36-page file of this pension application. So there's lots of good information there. And the one thing I want to note is this is one that's found on Fold 3. So they actually, the Fold 3 digitized it and then provided the National Archives. So, but the thing is, Fold 3 is a subscription database, so you have to pay for that to access it. But here, you can actually access it for free. Okay, so the next thing, just very quickly, we'll look at is this AAD access archival databases. And actually, I had a little bit of hard time using this database because it just seems like it's duplicative, but I don't think it is. It's just another database that has a smaller percentage of documents. So you'll want to search here as well. And you can either browse by subjects, or you can look at the series, and we'll do both here. So the first is looking at the series, and when you click on that link, this is where it brings you. And there's a list of them. I think there are like 67 series in this particular database. And this one is the Numident file, which is all the Social Security applications that have been collected. And I forgot to mention that there are 275 million items in this particular database. And as you can see, almost 150 million of that 275 consist of the Numident files. So these are all the SS5 files. And if you go to Family Search or Ancestry, it's a Social Security applications file. That's what is here. So I don't know if this is going to be that valuable searching this, because you can search on Ancestry, but it has some other things as well. Records of World War II prisoners of war. You know, I haven't checked, but I'll show you later where you can to see if those are available on Ancestry, but those are actually searchable right on this site. This is browsing by subject. So this gives you a subject access rather than by series, maybe a little bit more understandable for people. And you can look at it through here. I selected labor unions. Let's see if we did it. Yeah, so these are series of digitized records of labor unions. I'm not even sure if these are accessible in those other databases. Again, I haven't checked, but this looks like it might be pretty unique to this particular database. So this might be valuable for someone doing genealogical research here. And this is the digitization NARA with their partners. And you can find this under the archives.gov digitization digitized by partners link. And it's an entire list of what they're doing. So as you can see here, these are military petitions for naturalization in Tennessee. They're in Ancestry and it says it's complete. So you don't even have to bother. You can use Ancestry's indexing database to find these records. Down below are records of petitions and records of naturalization for military personnel. That's going to be at Family Search. They haven't started yet, so you can see their plans are in the future. And what's really kind of cool is they have an Excel file that you can download and keep on your computer. Then if you just want to consult, well, what's available at Fold 3, what's available at Family Search, you can pull it up and do a search. And they'll say, oh, it's not there. So I definitely have to go to the National Archives to research this. So that can be helpful in helping you direct your search. Okay, ordering records. There are three separate pieces to this. It's the landing page for ordering the reproductions. So when you click on order reproductions, it brings you to which reproductions you want to order. And when you click on that, it will lead you through, I'm sorry. Here we go. The links below that, if you click through those, will take you to where you need to order and what you need to order. And so, for instance, on the census pages, you would click on that, it would bring you to census. If you're going to do land records, you will get the section at the bottom, which will break it down even more. So this is how one goes about ordering these records, and they're both to be ordered. You can order some of them. You can order online, so you can ask them to scan these. But some of them, so these are the types of ones you can order online. Okay, and there's a cost usually attached to these. There are some records that must be ordered by fax or mail, so you have to, send in a fax or send it in by mail. And don't ask me why, but they're probably ones that have not been digitized yet. And so this is the link, and I don't know if I have a hyperlink here. Let's see.
On those copies that you can order, do you receive a digital copy or can you get a hard copy?
Usually digital, but you can ask for a hard copy. I'll probably keep you more. That'll cost you more. Wayne, do you have a comment on that?
I'm not sure the cost changes, but you can do it either way, or you could ask for both. If you want to do it though, you need to have a great amount of patience. It's taking. I know a fellow. I volunteered at the Rockingham Library before they shut down the pandemic, and he ordered. He ordered pension records for his grandfather, and it took over 2 years to get them, partly because of the pandemic, their working conditions and so on. But even before that, it would take months. You're not going to get it in a couple of weeks.
Good to know. Thank you.
I do see somebody wanting to get into the.
I'm not sure about the cost. It was around $80, for example, to get a pension record. I think if you wanted to order,
That's for a hard copy.
Yeah.
You're talking for the digital.
Well, and
Less.
I think it's the same fee because they have to go
$80.
find the record and so forth. And if it's not digitized, they would have to digitize. I was looking at Civil War pension records, so I'm not sure about maybe other records are probably available. But it's worth checking to see if it's already available online. I mean, that's kind of the irony of the whole thing is that they're in the process of continually digitizing records, and it wouldn't cost you anything if you managed to find it on their website. So
There are a couple of questions in the chat I might just address. Deborah, is there a handout? No, there isn't, but we will make the PowerPoint presentations available on our Google Drive folder, so you can download it from there, and the links will be embedded. And then Chip asks, if records are online, for what purpose would anyone order a copy? A printed copy is a printed copy. You're right. I can think of one instance. If you want a copy certified by the National Archives, I know that sometimes people do this for Italian dual citizenship applications. They find they can't find their their ancestor anywhere else but on the census, so they will order a certified copy from the National Archives of that census page. So that's one instance where they might do it.
Thanks.
So the part of the Library of Congress has this. Their part of their website is called Chronicling America. So it's a newspaper project searching for early newspapers. It's a free service. It's free for us to use, unlike some of the others like newspaper.com or Genealogy Bank has their newspaper service. I mean, the biggest advantage of this one is that it's free, and it is it's quite a selection of newspapers. I'm sorry, we had a message on the screen here, and I was trying to figure out what that meant. So anyway, this is the if you go to Chronicling America, it's this is their opening page, and if you'll notice, if I can get the mouse to go there. Maybe I can't. Well, anyway, as you can see there, the default is just it takes all states and all states that we have digitized papers for, and all the the range of years. I mean that the default thing is to take all of them. In other words, so there's over, like as you can see down there, pages available. We've got over 19 million pages that you could look at. So you can just type a name into that search box. So what I'm going to start with is just doing a couple of searches. The other pieces that you can see on this page, right now highlighted there, it's search pages. Next to that is advanced search. So we'll take a look at that. And then there is a way to search through and find all the digitized newspapers. So if you don't find something, it's good to check there to see if if it's even available. And then over on the right-hand side, is a U.S. newspapers directory. Talk a little bit about that. It's basically a way to find out what papers were published where, and it includes all the newspapers they've been able to find out about, but it doesn't mean that they are digitized. It just means that at one point those newspapers were published. Let's see. There we go. So a simple search. You just simply type a word in the search box. My caution is that it may give you many more results than you want if you don't narrow it down at all. In other words, I've got all states, all years, out of all those 19 million pages. The results show you a little thumbnail of the newspaper, and it highlights the words that you type will be highlighted. So here's my example. Her name was Harriet Amelia Folsom. She, I found varying degrees about which wife she was, but the newspaper that I found said she's the 17th wife, but I found other references that she was the 25th wife of Brigham Young. So I was just, it was just a bit of trivia thing, and I was picking this at random. So anyway, I was impressed that somebody had 17 or 25 wives. So anyway, this is what you see in the view, gallery view, I guess you call it. So each of these, as you can see, she appeared in a number of papers. So it is one of the advantages of doing a broad search is that while you may know, I mean, she would have been in Salt Lake City, but obviously there are newspapers all over here, Washington, D.C., Blackfoot, Idaho, what else? The
Worth County.
yeah, there's in Minnesota. So I mean, she wasn't necessarily a famous person, but she was pretty well known for her time, I guess. So anyway, I just randomly picked one of these, and in the I was going to just give you a little bit of, you probably can't see it on the screen, so I just wanted to point out a few things here. Since she was the 17th and favorite wife of President Young, this is an obituary. And of course, it's one of the more useful things to find in, doing genealogy. Points out that she's the youngest daughter of the late W.H. and Geneva Eliza Clark Folsom, both of New England, blue blood stock. She was born in Buffalo in 1838. And they moved to Utah, where she met Brigham Young, and was, it gives a marriage date, another useful thing, 1863. I hesitate to read this next part because it's but I got a kick out of it. She was well educated and above the average of her sex in intelligence. So anyway, a lot of information about her. I looked through a couple of the other newspapers. I think part of the reason he may have, well, obviously she was well educated, intelligent, and so forth, but It also happens that her father was an architect in Salt Lake City and built a lot of the buildings. And so I think Brigham Young wanted another building for himself.
Having a wife and a building.
So anyway, her father was an architect. She ended up living in that house. In fact, they called it Amelia's Palace. I looked online. Okay, so anyway, sometimes you luck out, and in other words, that would be a very useful thing, because it had a lot of names, dates, places, when she was born, when she died, who she, when she got married, and so forth. A lot of good basic genealogy information. But sometimes it's probably a little more useful if you try to narrow the search. So in this case, you can choose. You can select a state. You can select individual newspapers if you want to just search through the individual newspaper. You can put in a date range. All of these things have pluses and minuses. If you narrow it down to a state, you'll eliminate other newspapers across the country that may have published some information that you're looking for. If you want to search in just one newspaper, sometimes that's helpful. But again, of course, you miss other newspapers that may have had some other information. And if you narrow it down by date, I mean, that's another useful way to kind of just narrow down the whole list of things, especially if you get millions of hits or something instead of what you're looking for. What I've done here, I've chose Texas. I put in a date range from 1859 to 1861, and I put in a name, Anthony Bewley. He was a Methodist minister, and I was doing some research about him from my wife's family. So now, by putting in those results, as you can see, the result was I got 0 results. So again, what I would suggest is that local papers may have covered the event, but they might not be in the digitized newspaper database. So that's one thing to check. Other newspapers around the country might have also covered the event. So you want, in terms of backing up, there's a couple of the strategies here. When you end up with 0, it doesn't necessarily mean there was nothing there. It just means you got to try a different route. So, what I did was, for this one, was to check available newspapers. Just looking at these digitized newspapers to see what was there. And so a check revealed that I knew he was in Fort Worth. But if you look at this, there were Fort Worth papers and some of them are digitized, but there was nothing in 1860. So, which probably helps explain why nothing came up on the search. So to go back and do it again, I changed it to just all states. Again, I was trying to narrow it down to the year 1860. And we came up with 34 hits with a variety of papers. So just to pick out one of them. So he was a Methodist minister. He was born in Tennessee. I think he moved to Missouri, and then he served as a minister in Fort Worth. The thing was, as a Methodist minister in the South, he turned out to be a rather brave position for him, basically to preach that holding slaves was just morally wrong. I found varying accounts some accused him of being an abolitionist. Other papers said, no, he wasn't really an abolitionist, but he just believed that, people shouldn't own each other. So anyway, he got in trouble in Fort Worth for preaching, for his views. He realized that basically his life and his family were in danger. So he left Fort Worth, headed for Kansas. But a posse from Fort Worth caught up with him, and in Oklahoma somewhere, I believe, and dragged him back to Fort Worth. And basically the mob lynched him. I mean, something like 300 people were there, upset with his views. They were also scared that the North was going to invade, and there would be an uprising of, in Texas. So anyway, he was covered all across the country, though. So just as an example here, he pops up in this paper in Irisburg, Vermont. Of course, this paper was an abolitionist paper, and they were incensed that he, that he was murdered, basically. I did find later on in a different website, there was a Dallas Weekly Herald that covered the story as well. And the commentary was interesting, just the contrast between the northern, more abolitionist papers and the South, where it said, if you can't read it, let me just briefly read this line. It said, above all, he had no business there meddling with the domestic institutions of the country. And as great as our respect for the friends and family of Mr. Bewley, we must be permitted to say that the people of Texas served him right. If he had been our brother, we should say he ought to have been hung. So a little bit difference of opinion in the Southern papers.
Was it ordinary to hang white people?
I guess if they were abolitionists, it was. It was okay.
Just a side note, the largest single day of hanging in the South was Italians in Louisiana in 1893.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good question.
This lynching thing is strange. I'm not sure about this, but possibly between roughly 1860 and 1900, there were 5,000 lynchings in the United States. But I actually don't know if that was an overall figure or if it was a specific group. For example, I believe Jews were singled out for lynching. It's a very strange history, and possibly in Vermont, there was somebody lynched in 1900, but I'm not sure.
It's a terrible period, and it's amazing that we just recently decided that we should outlaw lynching. Okay, so the newspaper, let me just kind of move on here. So the newspaper directory, it's just a listing of all the newspapers that the Library of Congress knows about, and included here. So you can browse. So you click on one of those letters, and it'll take, click on B, and it'll bring up all the B, every newspaper that started with a B. You can search by state, you can search by date, and you can search by a keyword. So just as an example here, I put in, I wanted to see what was in Bellows Falls, and was really quite surprised that there's 27 results. This is the first 20 of them. So that, at one time or another here, there were 27 different papers in Bellows Falls, which is not a big place. You can, when you click on one of those, you're not actually searching the newspaper. What you're doing is getting information about the newspaper. So it tells you its title, where it was published, the area that it covered, the dates of publication, description, how often, the language. There are other papers in other languages that are published in this country. And other notes about, just description about the paper itself. So that, that's pretty much all that part of it does. I've not used it a whole lot myself because I'm more interested in what I can find online already that I can read, see the whole paper. There's another section of this called the Newspaper Navigator that is focused on looking for images. And you mentioned you're looking for an image. This one is kind of fun to play around with. There is a, I'm not going to play it, but if you go to this, when you go to this link, the person that developed this Newspaper Navigator gives a short little 15-minute video about how to use it. So if you're interested by what I show you here today, I would recommend you go back and see his video. It really helps to do the searching. So what it starts with is you're searching the photo captions for whatever keyword you typed in. So the text on these newspapers is scanned by an optical character reader, and the photos are displayed as thumbnails. And you can click on the photo and get a larger image. You can see the full paper, and you can limit the search by location and by a start year and an end year. All of the images, according to the video that they get, that video that I just referred to, they say all the images are in the public domain. So you could, if you're using them just as illustration purposes, you weren't looking for a particular person or anything or place, but you wanted some images to use, that would be a way to find them. So just to briefly kind of go through, how it works. I searched on Bellows Falls again. I did not try to narrow it down. See, if you see there, you can use location. In other words, if you pop that open, I'm searching in all, instead of just limiting it to say Vermont, Bellows Falls, Vermont. And you could choose a start year and an end year. This goes from 1900 to 1963. So in terms of the images, and I'll get into how you train the AI Navigator in a minute here. So what we're looking at here is when you do the search, you're looking at a gallery view. There's also a list view. And, so anyway, that's the start. You basically are searching the captions at that point. So you can click on a picture to get the info button, get more information about the picture. You can, so it gives you these choices. I mean, you can download the image, you can view the full issue of the paper. You can learn more about the paper, and then there's a citation link there if you want to be able to copy that and refer back to it. You click on that, cite this, and it'll give you the link to go back to it. So anyway, here, this is what used to be one of the earliest bridges across the Connecticut River of that type, a suspension arch bridge. Here's the list view. It gives you, again, a little description, and it gives you some choices there about how you can, again, a choice to download it, view the paper, and so on. So to make use of this in terms of if you are searching for images, you want to add it to your collection. Click the little plus thing and add it to your collection. When you click on it, when it's added, it's highlighted there in this little star next to the picture. then you can look at your collection after you've added a few images. In this case, I've only done a couple just as an example. You're adding the pictures to your collection. And now the kind of fun part with this is that you can train this artificial intelligence navigator to retrieve photos that according to their visual similarity. In other words, it's looking at the pictures and it's trying to find you other pictures that look the same or similar. So when I clicked on that image of the arch bridge, highlighted in green, and then off on the right are all the other images that the AI navigator thinks are similar to that. I'm not sure if you can't see it in your screen. It does show some bridges, other bridges, but it also includes dirigibles. It includes some aircraft, other things that the navigator thought were similar to the one I told it to look for. So you need to train it. So the next thing you do is run your mouse over the picture itself. That'll bring up a plus and a minus. If that image matched what you were looking for, you give it a plus, and if it doesn't, you give it a minus. And then you end up with a screen. Again, I just did a few of these. So I added a few pluses to include other bridges. And down below the negative, the minus sign, I tried to eliminate all the flying aircraft. And then when you tell it to look again, once you've finished adjusting a selection, you click this Train My AI Navigator button, and it retrains the AI Navigator to give you images closer to what you were looking for. So in this case, when you do it, it's eliminated. It does a pretty good job. I mean, it basically gave me a lot of bridges, and it eliminated all the various aircraft. Again, all this part is doing is just looking at images. So, and you can.
Where's it taking the information to find it? From the caption on it?
Not anymore. No, this is looking at the images.
It's actually looking.
When you do a search, you were looking at the captions, and it was, and even that's not perfect because it's an optical character reader, but it does a pretty good job to find something initially, and then, but then once you use the navigator, it's going to find other images. And again, it's probably mostly only useful if you're if you wanted something to illustrate something you were doing. So one of the examples that the fellow that does the video, he was looking for baseball players. So he clicked on an image of a baseball player, and then it found all the other baseball players.
And there's no other limit you can make with that. Can't do by date.
Oh, you can. Well, once you've created, that's kind of the next step.
Oh, okay.
You got to do once you've got some images on the screen. If you name your navigator, in this case I called it bridges. Once you've named your navigator, you can then go back to the search box, and the screen looks like this. And now if you see it where I've circled it in red there, you now have your navigator is listed there, and you could start then choosing a location or choosing a start year and an end year. So I don't know, in the baseball example, you might narrow it down by a particular year that you wanted to see what images of baseball players popped up.
And the locations are
states. So,
so I was thinking, like, if you brought up images of faces and you wanted all the bearded,
yeah, you could do that.
you could just then click on the bearded ones.
In fact, going back to my Dulles Falls search,
Yeah.
those earlier pictures, most people were wearing beards. So you could you could click on the image of a person, and you won't necessarily get, you won't necessarily get just that person. You'll get everybody else that thinks
And then you
looks
can
similar to that person.
Just click on the ones with beard. Maybe without beards might be more.
Well, then then you put them on the minus sign. So it's I don't know. It was just kind of
Kind of fun to play.
fun to play with.
I think that's amazing.
And you can, it is, I mean, I think it's pretty amazing that it's searching through like 19 million papers here and pulling out images of that you're asking for. And these are all bridges of some sort, So,
Well, just this morning on NPR, they interviewed the CEO of Google Alphabet about AI.
yeah, well,
So,
it's
want to know where it's going.
everywhere. Anyway, this, one other part I just wanted to point out. So I happen to have an account with MyHeritage, and so MyHeritage periodically sends me an email with hints that it thinks might be useful to me. So in this case, it popped up a hint for this Colonel Stacy, and you can see, again, it's an optical character reader, so it's, the text is, it helps to read it, but you can then go to, I go from the hint, and now I'm inside of, I did this using MyHeritage, but it was searching through Chronicling America to pull up the image of the paper. And I ended up with an obituary for him, which helped. He's my great grandfather, one of them. And
Does everyone know what MyHeritage is?
No.
Okay.
sorry, we should. You want to add to that?
Well, sure, just real quick. So, you know what Ancestry is?
Ancestry.com.
.com.
Right.
Have you used Family Search?
No.
Okay, that's one you should get to know too. But MyHeritage is another collection of databases, for family research. And they offer, trees and DNA and stuff like that. So they're very similar. They're just smaller than Ancestry, but they're worldwide, so they get more coverage. And
Does it cost money?
yes,
Yeah,
A lot, a
unfortunately.
little? What?
depends on what level you're on.
Like $200 a year. For that one. Yeah, I wouldn't start with that.
No, I guess
But you
not.
definitely should get an account.
It has some interesting features that were helpful to me, but yeah, I just wanted to point out it's MyHeritage.com. They do have an historical record search. One of those things is newspapers. So you go to that link under research, click on newspaper. It comes up, and you can search. They have a whole lot of other collections of newspapers, but one of them is Chronicling America. But as I was getting these screenshots, I noticed, oh wow, there's a Florida paper there. So I got lost searching through Florida papers for an obituary. But
And the one above it is Australian.
they are I think they're headquartered in Israel,
Yeah, they
if
are.
I'm not mistaken. So I mean, they are more of a worldwide. Well, Ancestry has you can buy a worldwide subscription to Ancestry too. But for Ancestry, I would recommend just coming into the library if you're in Brattleboro or in Bellows Falls.
There's a question from Chip on the screen.
What do we got?
Let me pull it up. Side of the chat.
I'm just about done here. So
Oh,
if
okay.
you want to,
You want to wait and answer that just when you're done?
well, no, that's all right. What's the question? I can't see.
Can you discuss the advantages of not at newspapers.com versus Chronicling?
Oh. Well, obviously, the best newspaper is the one that's got what you're looking for. But there's no good way to find that. Newspapers.com has a fee. But they probably have papers that aren't necessarily available in Chronicling America. So, for example, Chronicling America has no newspapers in New Hampshire no New Hampshire papers are digitized. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't digitized copies of newspapers available in New Hampshire, it's just that Chronicling America doesn't have any newspapers from New Hampshire. And I was doing a lot of research in New Hampshire. So, Chronicling America didn't help me a whole lot there. Whereas newspapers.com or, like I said, Genealogy Bank is another newspaper. Again, these all are by subscription. You have to have a subscription to them.
American Ancestors.org has historic newspapers if you have an account with them.
Yeah, again, if you have to be a member.
So Brooks is, I actually going to test that today to make sure their account can access those, because that would be handy too.
So, yeah, those are mostly 19th century newspapers, so they are helpful. So there's a lot of newspaper sites out there. What I would suggest is, if you're interested in it, you can, before you sign up, you can find out what newspapers they have digitized. So you want to at least make sure that it's something in the area that you might be, have a chance of finding something. Like I said, it doesn't help if you sign up for the service and they don't. If they don't have any newspapers from the place you're interested in. Sometimes too, in terms of searching for newspapers, it's helpful just to actually look at the library website in whatever town you're interested in, and sometimes they have digitized newspapers. I think. Oh, I was just doing an example here. So it's just what it just shows that you're searching inside of MyHeritage, but you're searching Chronicling America using their interface, which is only helpful to you if you are also using MyHeritage, obviously. So, I mean, you don't need to go to that extent, but if you're already using it, it's a way to search and probably attach it to somebody in a family tree that you have on MyHeritage. So that it would be better, a good way to search that. For the other example I have of Colonel Stacy there, I could just, by going through MyHeritage, I could just attach that obituary to him in the family tree. All right, I'm done.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Ready for the flood of
comments?
questions from the audience.
We have something of people in the chat here. Let's see if I can stop sharing.
I can bring it up.
I'm trying to figure out why I can't get a cursor to
You want
go
me to bring it up on our screen?
to.
Right.
Yeah,
You want to see
maybe
it up
just
there?
bring it up there. What have we got?
So there was a question here. David, the first lynchings were in Bedford County, Virginia by Mr. Lynch against Quakers accused of being loyal to King George III due to religious affiliation or pacifism.
There were some famous ones in Boston around that time too.
And then Kevin asked, 150 years ago or so, did only the rich and famous get their obit published? Was it considered news, or did you have to pay to get your obit in the paper?
Boy, some of those early papers, you're fortunate if they just listed that the person died without much of an obituary to go with it. I'm not sure that you had to pay for that, but it would if you probably had to be somebody reasonably well known before they had much of
There's an article in Family Tree magazine, which is free, that I posted there. It talks about the history of obituaries. It gives you a little bit of insight into it. So
the early papers, there's really not a whole lot there. In turn, it helps because it can give you some kind of confirmation about where the person died and when they died.
Right.
A lot of times they don't say much more than that, though.
And the smaller the community, the more information. that might be
Actually,
available.
yeah, some of the
You get into
smaller
big
papers,
cities, they're just not, they are going to concentrate on those.
because the smaller papers oftentimes had correspondents who, it was like Facebook today.
Yeah.
They would print things, just kind of news,
Right.
who's visiting who from out of town, or who's going out of town. And sometimes they would talk about somebody who died. Interesting, I rarely find much, marriages weren't really celebrated that much in the newspapers either.
Right.
But then there was probably kind of limit on space. Their early newspapers are pretty dense. Well, mostly just print, not much for anything else. Was there anything else in the chat? Actually, I'm trying to.
That one, Chip, about, and then the handout, and then people are introducing themselves. So that's,
Okay. I can't seem to get. I was trying to stop the sharing thing, but I can't get the mouse to move.
touchpad.
Maybe that one.
That's your,
Okay. I can go.
let's see.
Can you just override it for your computer?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can do that. Exit full. I just said only host could do it, so shut it.
Yeah.
So you guys have any questions for us or for other people in the group here to address? You can unmute yourselves if you want and speak.
I just wanted to say thank you. Well done.
Well,
You're
thanks.
welcome. And you can, we're going to hopefully, if the audio is adequate, we'll upload it to our YouTube channel so you can look at it again.
Okay, great. You've given me a good place to start. It's good. Okay.
Well, you're on our list, so you'll get
Uploaded
information.
because, boy, you got an awful lot of information out there, Wayne and Jerry. You're doing a great job. I'd love to see this on YouTube so I
Okay,
can
that might
look at
require.
them and save it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for
You
coming.
can.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey,
David.
Thank you. Thanks for everything. I have a question about the NARA sites there. I know some of the regional ones were specialized, but for those, I just looked at it rather quickly. I saw some sites, and I'd been to the New York City one once upon a time. In this day and age, are the regional sites duplicated or somehow linked into Washington, or are they all standalone, even though the title may not say they're specifically for a certain group of documents?
I had a bit of a hard time figuring it out, and I think it just might be that some of them do specialize, like the St. Louis one specialized in
Yeah.
Personnel. I know that San Francisco, if you need an alien file, people had to register as aliens for World War II and before, though they have those there. So I think there are some specialties, but I also think their main purpose is to help federal agencies in their area on, preservation efforts, what to save, how to convey it back over to them. They do have some selected microfilm, probably the most requested microfilm at the NARA in DC that you can access at the regional archives. So
Mhm.
probably, I think some of them, they have their own websites. So you can check their websites to see if they've developed, some of their special collections as well. I noticed that.
I'm pretty sure that some of the, like the Boston one, it only has New England information. I mean, the New England records.
Because you have both Boston and the one in Western Mass.
Yeah, I don't know if that dictates it or not in Massachusetts, but I mean, I assume they probably also just New England, but. And as you mentioned, St. Louis is the only place you're going to find the.
For those destroyed personnel.
It's not like destroyed.
But
And in Washington, like the pension records we were talking about, Civil War pension records.
Right.
I mean, that's the only place you're going to find those records because they're in the process of digitizing them. But if it's not digitized, then you have to either you have to request the record or go to Washington to see it.
I mean, a big collection is the War of 1812. That's in the process of being digitized.
Of course, Washington, it's only Union soldiers, though, by the way, too. If you're looking at Civil War.
That's right. That's a good point. Because the Confederate.
If you were looking for Confederate soldiers, you
you gotta
probably
go
have
to
to contact by state.
state archives.
I mean, that's the first question they asked me. I said I was looking for Civil War records. I said, well, is it Union or Confederate?
You guys have some genealogy brick walls or anything you want to run past us? Somebody has a hand up, I think. Oh, no.
That's yours.
Oh, so it's the mouse that does that.
The mouse does it.
What has everyone been, what have you been working on? If you care to share.
Mostly updating 1950 census records into my database.
Oh, really? Are you finding a lot, Jim?
Well, I don't have that much time to do it, so, but it's slow and steady.
Yeah.
So progress, yes.
I think that Ancestry has them all indexed now.
I was going to say, since our last meeting where we talked about the 1950 census, a lot of these sites have now already gone through the whole review, and they're all searchable.
They're searchable.
Not sure if it's totally complete yet, but a good chunk of it is available and searchable.
Well, let's see what else. I guess we're talking about another one, another meeting in August, probably the first Saturday. And we're always looking for topics, so if you guys have something you want us to cover, go ahead and email us at the email that we send the information around, and we'll certainly put it in the queue.
Yeah, we'd love suggestions.
Yeah, we love, like to do things that you'd like to see us, rather than stuff coming out of our heads might not be that relevant to what you're working on.
I would say that I also would be interested in some more about what you all are working on, and maybe some great success or insight you've had. I would find that encouraging to keep me going. So if anybody now or in the future, we could take a few minutes for people to, I'm really interested in what you all are doing.
Are you on our email list?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I started way back when you started in Rockingham.
Oh, really?
And then I got bogged down, and so I'm here to get inspired again.
Oh, okay. Did we help you with
Yes,
that?
you
Okay, good.
did, and
We
I
didn't drive you away.
No, and I appreciate any help, all help, anyone else I find it inspiring to know what other people are doing.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Sharon Couturier.
So what have you,
Yeah,
what have you been trying to do?
Well, I just started with family names back in Illinois, and I got very discouraged because my family liked a lot of the same names.
Oh, well,
And it just kept leading me to dead ends, and then I just kind of got bogged down and so I want to get going again.
yeah, that's tricky if,
Yeah, they love the name Adam. Everybody was named Adam, and
is that right?
yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah,
Where, I mean, how far have you gone back? And where are you stuck?
Just kept finding the same name, but I couldn't identify whether it was the son or the father or the uncle or the brother.
Are you sure it's the family?
Well,
Could be the same name and not this,
I think,
yeah.
yeah. See, I got bogged down.
Well, everybody does. I mean, that's where I did my Italian research, because the naming conventions for Italians are your firstborn son is named after the grandfather, secondborn son is named after the mother's father,
Yeah,
and then,
Yeah.
all the
Oh, yeah.
daughters are there.
yeah,
Done.
yeah.
So you get lots of repeating names.
yeah. So I'm going off on a new tack now. I'm going to go for that photo I'm looking for, a specific photo and a specific newspaper of my grandfather and Teddy Roosevelt. And if I can find that, that's going to get me going again.
Okay. So you're gonna be using Chronicling America?
Yes.
Good.
we'll try that out. You say you've seen it before.
Yeah,
picture,
I had it. I had a
Oh, you
copy.
had
It
it.
got lost.
so
Yeah.
You know it exists.
Yes.
That helps.
Yes. My grandfather on a buckboard with Teddy Roosevelt, bringing Roosevelt into town.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool. If I can
You wanna
find
try to
it.
find it?
Let's
Let's
see.
go. You're
See if
under the gun
I.
now. Gonna share your screen. We can,
Yeah, let me see if I can find Chronicling America first.
while you're doing that, I'll try some newspapers.com searches. So what was his name?
His name was William Davis. And the newspaper, I believe, was the Decatur Herald,
So Decatur.
Illinois.
And the time period was,
Teddy Roosevelt time.
okay,
Whatever that would be.
Didn't help just to put in William Davis, I guess. The first thing that came up was that the governor of the territory of New Mexico had commuted his sentence for being convicted of murder.
I don't think.
not the same guy.
Dear. Try advanced.
He was a veterinarian.
Oh, that's handy. Identified it.
Not that I know of, but he was a veterinarian that took care of the dairy delivery, all the horses that pulled the milk wagons. And he took care of all the horses that did that.
So we do. Davis.
So it would have been Dr. Davis.
You know when he died?
I have it at home, but I don't know off the top of my head. Somewhere around 1950.
Oh. What was his middle?
I've been trying to think of that. I'm sure I have it at home.
So he was just a kid when this happened? No,
He was driving the buckboard. I'm calling it a buckboard. It was a horse-drawn conveyance bringing Roosevelt into town for some kind of speech, I imagine.
So it was during a campaign problem.
Maybe.
So I was trying, don't have it on the screen. I was trying to see if it would work, just to type in all, just this, one of the searches you can do is looking for all the words. But it did not, it still brought up way too many. So you said this was in Illinois?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing a search for,
The Decatur one.
I think it was the Decatur Herald.
That was a Herald Dispatch. Herald Review, that's still being published. I think. That's still being published.
Could have been. I'm not sure.
let's see, we have a picture of Teddy Roosevelt, but not the one you're looking for there.
No, it was a picture of them actually sitting on this horse-drawn conveyance. Yeah.
So let's see, I have 169 hits here by just searching, just putting in their names.
This shows how difficult this can be.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
But the other thing I thought I would try.
Would there be any possibility of going to the newspaper itself? If I had the name of the newspaper, would they have archives?
Possibly.
Possibly, but they're usually not in the business of indexing. They usually, have ProQuest or these other firms do the indexing, so they probably have to do the searching. But on the other hand, they might have a photo archive, just of their photographs.
Of course, the other thing, paper might not be in existence either. So, in other words, there's no office. So I was just curious whether I could find any pictures of Teddy Roosevelt in newspapers, but see, well, no, I should try Illinois if I now
With
narrow just down.
newspapers.com. I'm sort of searching in the time period of 1900 to 1912. Thinking that would be a
Well, that didn't help.
Roosevelt.
I narrowed it down to Illinois. But It only gave us 3 images. Well, probably better off just to try to search, you know. Anyway, that's,
Yeah, I'll look through the information I have at home.
Yeah, see
See if I can narrow it down, yeah,
Right, especially if we get the name of the newspaper.
yeah,
if you had the name of the newspaper, then you could tell if it's even in here.
okay.
You know, that's one of the, certainly, just search on this, all the digitized newspapers, and then you can tell
Right.
All right, I have my
what's
assignment.
there.
You can email us.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for your efforts.
Okay, folks, well, unless there is anything else you want to throw at us, we'll call it a day. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
We'll send out a notice, you know, in July with the date and time, and probably the place will be at Rockingham. Maybe some of you up north there might want to come come visit us in the library. So, okay, so I think I
Thanks
got
for
the
set.
controls here. All right.
Okay.
See ya. Thank you.
Thanks again.